Sit back and listen to this extremely interesting story.
Jen woke on the couch with the sun shining through the blinds as it set over the horizon. Why am I out here? What time is it? She thought, her mind fuzzy before the memories of last night flooded her mind. Fighting back tears, Jen sat up and checked her phone. I think I slept all day. Going to the kitchen, Jen got a glass of water and something to eat. Sitting at the table, she glanced at her phone. There were several missed calls from Stan and one from Becky. 2 voicemails, great. Rubbing her temples, trying to ease the headache that threatened to blow her head apart, she played the first one from Stan. Hey babe, I hope everything is going okay. I tried calling a couple of times, but you didn't answer. I just wanted to let you know I was going out with some of the team for dinner and drinks. I will call tomorrow and check on you. Love you, bye. I hope he has a better time than I am having, she thought, playing the second voicemail from her daughter. Hey Mom, I just wanted to call and talk. Nothing important. Anyways, love you. Glancing at the clock, she saw that she had about an hour before she needed to be at Camilla's. So, with a groan, Jen took a hot shower. Taking a sports suit, she opened the drawer and took out more clothes. Sitting on the bed, she looked at the clothes in her hands. Jen knew that Donald would have his way with her as soon as his mom was gone, whether she wanted it or not. For several minutes, she sat there, arguing with herself. What's up? She asked before putting some clothes back in the drawer and changing into sweats. Looking in the mirror, she saw bags under her eyes, which looked red from crying. Unable to look at herself any longer, she threw on her shoes, grabbed her phone, and went to the balcony. The sun was just setting behind the trees across the pond, painting the world in oranges and reds. Typically, this was one of Jen's favorite times of the day, but today, after a glance, she ignored it and called her daughter. Hi, Mom, Becky said, putting her hand on Emily's head to stop her. Hey, Beck, how are things going? Jen asked, trying to sound normal. Things are going okay. Just hanging out with Emily, Becky said, tapping Emily on the forehead and pointing at the phone. Hi, Mrs. Anderson, Emily said, cleaning her face with a finger. Looking up at Becky, she waited until Becky nodded before putting the finger in her mouth to lick it clean. Oh, hi, Emily, how are you doing? Anything new? Emily stopped cleaning her face. I'm doing well. No, nothing new. I still work at the cleaners and live at home. Mom said to tell you hi. After finishing the conversation, Emily continued to please Becky. Becky closed her eyes, suppressing the urge to moan as Emily did her thing. Well, tell her hi from me. Becky had met Emily in high school, and by their senior year, the two had become inseparable best friends. Jen was glad that their friendship had survived Becky going to college. Becky pulled Emily away from her and pointed at the phone again. I will, Emily promised. You girls doing anything tonight? Jen asked, wanting something to take her mind off her life. Not at all. I promised Emily that she could meet my new roommate, so she came out, and I think the 3 of us are going to watch a movie or something. Becky replied, looking at her new roommate Jenna, who was with and watched as Emily pleasured Becky. I'm glad everyone is getting along so well, Jen said, remembering her college days and the horrible roommate she had to put up with for 4 years. Me too. Are you okay? Becky asked. Yes, why? Jen answered, suddenly feeling nervous. You sound, I don't know, off. I know Dad is out of town again, so I get being lonely. Just wanted to make sure everyone was okay. No, everything is fine. I'm just a little tired, I guess. Okay, well, if you need anything. I know, love you, Beck. I love you too. Becky said, holding back a moan. Bye. They both said simultaneously and hung up the phone laughing. Jen looked at the time. No sense dragging this out anymore, she thought. A few kilometers away, Becky enjoyed her time with Emily. Pushing Emily away from her, Becky looked at her latest conquest, a mousy young woman. That's how you do it, girl, Becky told Jenny. Jenna looked between Becky and Emily, scared but also very excited. What's wrong, mistress? Emily asked, kissing Becky as she waited for permission to pleasure Becky again. I do not know. There's something wrong with Mom, Becky said. Emily knew what she wanted and quickly approached Becky. Look, girl, you're going to be next. Becky told Jenny as she flipped through her phone's calendar. She put in a block to see her mom. Becky said, pointing the camera at Emily. Emily looked at the camera and paused so Becky could take another shot. I like this one. Maybe I'll set it as your phone's screensaver. Becky asked as she watched Emily shiver as she no doubt thought of her own mother seeing her only child pleasuring a woman. Jen walked out of her apartment and locked the door. She slowly walked down the hallway, shuffling her feet. Standing at Camilla's door, she hesitated a few seconds before knocking. Please don't be home. Please don't be home, Jen thought. Jen's spirits fell when Camilla opened the door and smiled at her. Right on time, Camilla said, putting an earring in her right ear. Come on in. I was about to leave. Donald is in his room and there's food in the freezer if he gets hungry. Camilla ushered Jen into the tiny kitchen while she gathered a few things and put them in her purse. I shouldn't be late tonight, Camilla said, stopping in front of Jen, clutching her purse. Are you okay? Camilla asked, worried that Jen wasn't feeling well. Do I look that bad? Jen answered, remembering how she looked in the mirror. You look like you are coming down with something, Camilla remarked, setting her purse down and feeling Jen's forehead with the back of her hand. I'm fine, just a little tired, Jen said, pulling Camilla's hand away from her head. You sure? Camilla asked, not believing Jen but also realizing if she stayed any longer, she would be late to work. Yes, I'm fine, Jen reiterated. Now go before you are late. Okay. Call me if you need me to come home, Camille said as she left the apartment, shutting the door behind her. To Jen, the sound of the door closing sounded like a cell door closing, and now she was trapped. Entering the living room, Jen breathed a sigh of relief. Donald wasn't there, so she relaxed and found something to watch on TV. Sitting there, Jen wasn't watching the show. She was shaking, her mind playing out different scenarios. Donald made her do different things in each one. It wasn't long before she heard it. The creaking noise of a door down the hall opening signaled Donald's approach. She trembled as the sound of footsteps got louder. No, Jen thought, wrapping her arms around herself. Donald walked into the living room with no clothes on. Hi, pretty lady, he said, standing in the middle of the room. Where are your clothes? Jen said sternly, trying to take control of the situation. I don't need clothes when mommy is gone and the pretty lady is here, Donald said, looking at the floor before him and back at Jen. Yes, you do need clothes. No, I don't. Clothes just get in the way of pretty lady, he said, tapping his foot and looking at the floor before him. He wants me to do it again, Jen thought. A shiver ran through her body as she looked up at him. The look of impatience on Donald's face made Jen lower her head and walk over to him. Jen was about to comply when Donald grabbed her arms, stopping her. Pretty lady has too many clothes on. Pretty lady is smart. She should know better. Donald pushed her away, causing her to fall backward on the floor. She scrambled as he walked over to the couch and sat. Hurry up, beauty, he said. Jen, feeling defeated, complied with Donald's wishes by lowering her head. When she stood before him, he grabbed her and prepared her for punishment. She struggled to escape the punishment she instinctively knew was coming, but Donald was much stronger. Be still, pretty lady, Donald said. The pain, both physical and emotional, drove Jen into a frenzy. Arms and legs struggled to free themselves from Donald. Jen hoped she could escape him for a few minutes, but that was dashed when he pinned her down and began punishing her. The pain was intense as the noise from the slaps seemed to echo around the apartment. Jen stopped struggling and lay there, sobbing, the fight altogether leaving her body. Beauty must learn to be nice to me, Donald told her, pausing. I'm sorry, Jen kept repeating, tears falling from her face onto the floor. Donald's fit seemed to have run its course. Look what Beauty made me do, he said, stroking her gently. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. Jen found herself saying, at some level believing this was partially her fault. Donald pushed Jen off his lap and waited until she got back on her knees. Jen knew her makeup was ruined entirely from crying. Jen knew what to do. She moved forward and started pleasuring him. Donald leaned back a bit, letting Jen work. Good, pretty lady, he kept repeating. Jen worked hard to please him. Soon he was satisfied and released her, and Jen fell to the floor, breathing heavily. Pretty lady is getting good, Donald said. The praise briefly brought a smile to her face before the guilt and regret chased it away. Donald patted his thigh. "Come on, pretty lady." Jen sighed, but got up off the floor and did as he wished. Donald squeezed her hard, bit her. His cruel treatment of her caused sharp emotions which worried her even more. She spent time with Donald while he treated her roughly. He paused his abuse, looking at her. "Why isn't pretty lady moving?" Jen took the hint and started working while he was being rude. "No," Jen said. The pain from her bruises was so bad that she stopped, but one look at his face told her it wasn't a good idea. "Pretty lady looks nice," Donald said, looking at Jen when they were together. She felt herself pleasured several times. Donald held her as she went limp, keeping her from falling. It was the first tender thing he had done, and it surprised Jen, giving her conflicting emotions. "Pretty lady better?" Donald asked, stroking her back. "Yeah, I'm better now," Jen told him as she continued. Donald wanted to change the situation. Jen did as he ordered, not wanting to annoy him and risk possible punishment again. She is still sore from the first one. Taking her position, she watched over her shoulder as Donald approached. Just get it over with, Jen thought. Donald decided to spend his time in a different way. Unable to stop herself, Jen straightened up to face him and screamed at him. "No." He looked at her, clearly communicating that she better get back into position. "Turn around, pretty lady." Jen swallowed the tears and slowly turned around and bent over like before. Donald wasted no time in continuing what he had begun. "You want me to do this, don't you, pretty lady?" Jen would never let anyone do that. Even after much pleading, Stan was never able to do it. His pleas were rejected. She could think of one of the few times they had fought because she didn't want to spend time like that and left the bedroom. Donald was hurrying her. Okay. Yes, please do it," Jen said, not wanting to be punished anymore. "I thought pretty lady would want me to do that. Maybe she should beg for it," he said, pushing harder. Jen tried to relax. "Please do it," Jen said, sobbing as she felt him start. "Anything Beauty wants," Donald said as he granted his wish. Jen continued to sob as they spent time like this. The feelings transitioned from pain to discomfort quickly and became something that felt good, which surprised Jen. She was surprised when she got pleasure. A few minutes later it happened again. Satisfied, he released her, and without his support she fell to the floor. Pretty lady did good, Donald told her, pulling her to her knees. Jen was exhausted, physically and emotionally. She knelt before him, looking at the floor, hoping he would go away now that he got what he wanted. That hope died when he pulled her head up so she was looking at him. "A beauty must clean up," he said. "No," Jen said, shaking her head. She watched as anger flashed across his face and quickly moved forward when she saw his hand raised. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it," she said, complying with his wish. He seemed satisfied with her behavior because he smiled and dropped his arm. Jen spent several minutes cleaning him before he pulled away. Walking away from her, he turned right before disappearing down the hallway. "Next time pretty lady will be ready for me." Jen saw the look and knew if she wasn't, he would just hurt her until she did what he wanted. "Yes, Donald, next time pretty lady will be ready," she said, smiling and hoping it was over for now. "Good. I don't like hurting pretty lady," he said, looking guilty, before walking down the hall. Jen collapsed on the floor, crying for several minutes until all the tears were gone. Picking up her clothes, she went to the restroom to clean herself up. Like a zombie, she cleaned up the mess her coupling with Donald left on the carpet and the couch, hoping Camilla wouldn't notice the stains. Once satisfied, she grabbed a blanket and lay on the couch in a fetal position. Jen must have dozed off because the next thing she knew, Camilla was shaking her awake. "I didn't want to wake you, but you looked uncomfortable on the couch. You know, you could have just gone and laid in my bed. Sorry, I didn't mean to fall asleep. I guess everything just caught up with me," Jen said, sitting up and yawning. Camilla was watching Jen and almost got caught in the peephole when Jen dropped her hands. "Was Donald any trouble?" Camilla asked, covering for staring. Jen thought for a second, a war going in her mind. Tell her before this gets worse, she thought, angry with herself for even hesitating. "No, not really," Jen said, looking away. The moment passed as Camilla smiled and turned away. Jen walked to the door. "See You tomorrow, she said, her back turned to Camilla, who watched Jen's every move. See you tomorrow, Camilla said before the door shut. Jen returned home, took a hot bath, and cried as she looked at Donald's handprints left on her body. Unable to contact Stan, she took something to help her sleep and went to bed. Stan sat on a couch staring into the drink in his hand, wondering how Jen was doing at home. He had seen the decline in her emotional health over the last week or so and worried she was becoming depressed. I have to take her away, just the two of us, for some fun, he thought, turning the stirring straw around the drink. Why so gloomy? Cindy asked as she undressed. Thinking about my wife, Stan said, looking up at the marketing assistant that had asked him back to her room. You might want to forget about her for a while, Cindy said as she removed some of her clothing. Stan smiled, sitting down his drink and reaching for the tall blonde. Maybe I should, he said as he pulled her close and kissed her. Cindy moaned as Stan kissed her. Cindy glanced at the wall clock. Well, this is fantastic, lover. We need to speed this up so I can get home before my husband misses me. Are you in a hurry to get a job? Stan asked as he pulled Cindy. You always know what I need, Cindy said as she got into the right position. Touchy girl, Stan commented. Start already. Tick-tock, Stan laughed. He started spending time with Cindy as she wanted. Do it, Cindy liked Stan's work. Her husband found spending time like this disgusting, so maybe Cindy prefers it when she meets Stan. Stan continued to do what Cindy wanted, wanting Jen to let him do the same. Maybe he wouldn't have started spending time with Cindy if she did. He thought, looking at the tall blonde. He knew it wouldn't matter. They both enjoyed themselves. Stan fell onto his back, pinning Cindy against the bed as they recovered. She loved it when Stan hugged her, but she knew she didn't have time for hugs. Cindy moved, pushing Stan aside so she could stand up. Sorry, I have to leave or Bill will start asking questions, Cindy said, going to the restroom to clean up. Stan was lying on the bed staring at the ceiling fan. Now that the fever was gone, he felt guilty. Goodbye, stud, Cindy said, kissing him. See you tomorrow, Stan replied, watching her walk out the door. Stan remembered the first time he saw Cindy at a conference 5 years ago. Since then, they got together to be together several times a year. After a hot shower, he watched TV before calling it a night. Hope Jen is doing okay, he thought as he drifted off.
Subscribe to our channel so that your second C gaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.